Shalom Aleichem. Welcome to the Breslov weekly Parshat Shia. This week is Parshat Vayeishev. Vayeishev Yaakov v'Eretz Megurei Aviv v'Eretz Canaan. Yaakov dwelled in the land where his forefathers dwelled, in the land of Canaan. The Medrash says Yaakov was living in the land Mikiyurei Aviv. Megurei is from the word Mikiyurei. Just like Avraham and Yitzchak tried to bring people to come to recognize and know Hashem, so too Yaakov did so. Because he did so, it says, Eile Teldos Yaakov Yosef, these are the children of Yaakov Yosef. He had 11 other sons, right? What happened to Yosef? Well, because he tried to teach about Hashem, he fell into all the problems that he had with Yosef. Yosef had difficulties with his brothers. He had differences, and they didn't care for his rebuke. Nobody cares for rebuke, but they didn't care for his rebuke, so they hated him. That's what it says. Now, you think about it. These are 12 pure tzaddikim. Every one of them was a pure tzaddik. Every one. And yet, there were differences between them. That's because everyone's approach to Hashem is different. And as great as the brothers were, they were not as great as Yosef. They were not as pure as Yosef. And therefore, there was a slight twang of jealousy. And the brothers, well, can't be. Yosef is so much younger, and he's above us. Can't be. Can't recognize that. So Rabbi Nachman teaches that when one wants to teach about Hashem like Yaakov did, it doesn't go easy. In your own family, with pure tzaddikim, there could be a big mess up. They sold Yosef into slavery. They sold him into slavery. Imagine that. But yes, that's what happened. And that's what happens, right? Slavery is not just, well, I'm sold as a slave. Slavery is I become a slave to whatever it is that's ruling over me, over my life. I got to earn a living. I'm a slave. I own a house. I'm a slave to the house. I am a parent with children. I'm a slave to the children. Slavery is something that you don't get away with it so easy, right? Everyone has to work hard in this world. What then? There's a way to get above it. There's a way to rise above it. How? By putting Hashem first. If I know that there is a higher power, if I know that there is a level that could really help me, that could really take care of me, and I put my trust in Hashem, well, then I know I can overcome. Let's take, for example, what happened with Yosef. He was sold into slavery. And his Potiphar, his master, his wife, Potiphar's wife, tried to entice Yosef to do a sin. Yosef refused. He refused. And what he did was he just fled. There'll be humiliation. There'll be embarrassment. But I am not going to sin. And for that, the Seder Hadoros brings some svarim that when Yosef fled, Potiphar's wife swore revenge. After all, she tried to entice Yosef, and he rejected her. So she concocted a story negative to Yosef. There was a baby in the house at the time, and when the story was being told by Potiphar's wife, the baby contradicted her every step of the way. But because of her position, and because of Potiphar's position, he was the chief butcher of Paro, they had to imprison Yosef. There's justice in the world, right? Everything works with pure justice. No, it doesn't work that way, right? They imprisoned Yosef because otherwise they would have been mockery and made fun of by the entire Egyptian population. No one's about to give up their position to help somebody who's right. And that's what we're seeing today with Hamas, right? The Secretary General of the UN supports Hamas. He's got to, because he's got so many Arab and Muslim nations in the UN, and he's got only one Israel. It's okay. He'll tell the lie. Same with all the demonstrations on campuses, right? They don't even know what they're rebelling against. They don't even know what they're demonstrating against. But they got to do it. My friends are doing it. I got to do it. I can't afford to give up mine. So that's the way of the world. Parshat teaches us that there's truth and people make mistakes, like the brothers did. But you know what? Yehuda was the one who said, let's sell Yosef into slavery. Then the Parsha stops with the selling of Yosef and his subsequent adventures in Potiphar's house. And it tells us a story about Yehuda. Yehuda went out to shear his sheep. He met up with a woman. He thought she was a harlot. The Medrash says he ran away from her. The Malach, the angel, came, turned him around. Why? Because Mashiach was destined to come from this union. What it teaches us is that we do things, and sometimes we do things that are wrong, and sometimes we're even forced into a situation to make a wrong decision. It happens, right? No, the Medrash is teaching us that from the worst type of an association, Yehuda and Tamar, can come Moshiach. God could bring about salvation from the worst act too. And that's what's important for us to know. Yosef was imprisoned. From the imprisonment is where he met, at the end of the Parsha, the chief steward and the chief baker. And that's how eventually, in next week's Parsha Miketz, that's how eventually he is redeemed and he becomes the ruler over all of Egypt. So Hashem could take any situation, no matter how bleak, no matter how difficult, no matter how frightening it is, and he can turn it into a salvation. May Hashem help us that we merit to see the salvation of Am Yisrael and to see the coming of Mashiach, the building of the Beis HaMikdash, the ingathering of the exiles. Amen v'amen. Good evening, and I hope you enjoyed the shir. And if you like to share, please pass it on to others and let them all get interested in Breslov and Rabbi Nachman's teachings. We look forward to hearing from a lot more of you. All the best.